This is station 5, number 1, letter F. When I see problems like this, it's asking you to simplify. Simplifying means that we're only going to see one of each letter, one of each number, and the exponents on them will be as simplified as possible, along with no negative exponents. And so the first thing I want to deal with are those negative exponents, because that makes this problem a lot easier. So I'm going to start by moving the negative exponents and their bases around. So if you see a negative exponent in the numerator, you move it to the denominator, and so on. So here's what I'm going to move. I'm going to move this entire thing to the denominator, this entire thing to the numerator, denominator, numerator. Everything else for right now is going to stay as is. So I'm going to leave the 5 to the 8 here, the 5 to the 6 down here. We have x to the 11th. So when you do move it, that exponent becomes positive. And so I move that x to the 9th up here. Y to the 8th is staying. Let me make that a little bit better here. Y to the 8th stays. All right, and I have, now I have a y to the 1 up here. My z to the 6 moves down here, and z to the 3 stays down there. All right, now we have letters and numbers on different levels, and so they have different properties when we start combining them at this point. So let's take a look at the numbers here first. They have the same base, and so when they're on different levels, one's in the numerator, one's in the denominator, we can subtract their exponents. Okay, so we have that 8 minus 6 is 2. That's a positive 2, so I'm going to keep it in the numerator. All right, next we have x to the 9th over x to the 11th. First, you should take note that there are more on the bottom than there are on the top. We have 11 in the bottom. So if we did 9 minus 11, we'd get a negative 2. And a negative 2 means that that letter goes in the denominator. However, we do want to keep that positive. So the way that I do this is I always subtract the bigger minus the smaller. And wherever there are more, that's where it goes. So I do the 11 minus 9. From there I get 2. And since there are more x's on the bottom, that's where that 2 goes. Okay. So then we look at the y's. Well, the y's are on the same level. They're both in the numerator. And so you actually want to combine those by adding there. So we have y to the 9th in the numerator. Lastly, we have our z's. And our z's are on the same level. They're both in the denominator. And since they're both in the denominator, we can combine their exponents by adding. And so we have z to the 9th there. There's only one more step in this problem, and that is because the number 5 squared needs to be simplified, and that means, saying 5 times 5 is 25. Everything else can follow as the same. We only see one of each letter, y, x, and z. And all their exponents are combined. There's no negative. The number's written out, and so this problem is complete.